So we're going to spend the next hour just building on what Diana just spoke about, and we're going to talk about creating the ultimate wireless retail space. But before we get started, we have one question for you guys. Why do you attend the summit?
All right, we want to be really honest in answering this. So is it A, you just come to learn as much as possible about the software that IQmetrics sells?
Or B, you come to learn, connect with IQmetrics people, your peers and friends, be inspired by top-notch speakers like Magic, check what's new in the industry, and have a great time at our fabulous parties. So everyone who's going to answer A, raise your hand. B, raise your hand. That's what I thought. So just like the summit, the same applies to the retail world, where we're really selling experiences, not just products and services. Why do we take our kids to Build-A-Bear? It's not for an extremely overpriced teddy bear. It's the experience of your kids being able to use their imagination and make their very own bear that they can take home and tell that story with their friends. I was in India this summer and had a chance to shop at the markets in Udaipur and Delhi. And I'm not going to remember all the little souvenirs and trinkets that I brought home, but I will never forget the experience. All of the beautiful colors of the fabric everywhere, the smell of incense in the store, the interactions with the shopkeepers, all the namaste exchanged, a cow randomly poking its head into a shop, and repeatedly almost getting hit by a motorcycle. It's this experience that I went home and told my friends and family about. Why do we go to Hooters? It's not for the wings. So the good news is that 86% of consumers will pay more for a better customer experience. There's all kinds of apps out there today that allow consumers to compare prices, check prices, but at the end of the day, they're willing to pay a little more if you can provide a better customer experience. So I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes talking about who today's consumer is, because they've really changed just from even 2 to 3 years ago. And it's really the consumer who's putting this pressure on us to create a better in-store experience. So first of all, they're connected. They're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on the latest one, Snapchat. And they're really paying attention to what their family and friends have to say about products. It's heavily influencing their purchase decisions. They're empowered. They have access to all kinds of product information from any device at any time of day. So they're using that to make very informed purchase decisions. They're busy. For most of us, shopping is a chore. We want to be able to go to a store and have a very convenient and efficient experience. They have high expectations. Anne and I spoke about Burberry last year as being one of the leading retailers when it comes to the in-store experience and the overall customer experience. You may have heard, as Apple paid attention, Apple just hired Burberry's CEO. And lastly, they want to be entertained. Life is short. As a retailer, if you can grab our attention, capture our interest, you're going to create a very loyal consumer. So which retailers are getting it right? Who's really leading the way when it comes to the in-store experience? My first example is Walgreens. This is their Chicago flagship location. And first of all, the location itself is beautiful. It serves as an attraction. It's an old historic building, used to be a bank. And what I love most about this store is that they've created different sections that are focused on lifestyle. They've got an area where they're hand-making sushi and sashimi on site. They've got fresh fruit. They've got a juice bar. They've got healthy food to go, really playing into that healthy lifestyle. This is their vitamin vault. This is the original vault from the bank. So again, it's an attract feature, but it's really what's behind that vault that counts. And it's the analogy that, you know, we have your most precious asset covered, your health. This is their Look boutique. And it's not just your average makeup section. They've got product experts in there you can talk to, and they'll help you make a purchase decision. They've got a brow bar. They've got a nail bar on site. You can see these two girls interacting with the screen where they can actually try products before buying them. And now for my favorite section, the beer and wine. Over 700 types of wine on site, and they've got a really cool virtual bartender app that will give you a recommendation on what wine to take home, depending on what you're cooking for dinner that night. Lululemon is a retailer that started at home in Vancouver, and they've now grown to be one of the fastest growing retailers in the world. How have they achieved this? It's not just about workout gear. They've tapped into this amazing trend that we call yoga. And they've really created a community around yoga. You can actually go to a lot of their stores and practice yoga in-house. So they're tapping into this activity that's part of your everyday life, and you're surrounded by the products that are supporting that activity that you love. EE, Everything Everywhere, is a wireless retailer in the UK. And they're really taking the in-store experience to a next level. They created 3 different areas in the store: connect on the go, connect at work, and connect while you play. So again, very lifestyle focused. They've got their products organized in a really intuitive way so that if you want an Android, you just go to the Android section. If you want an Apple, you just go to the iOS section. And they've got a technical help desk in there, like a Genius Bar, where you can go and learn more about how to use this device that you've purchased. They're really focusing on all aspects of that in-store experience.
So we'll bring this story, very similar story, closer to home. How many of you have been to AT&T flagship Chicago store? How many of you haven't heard about it? Okay, there's a few. So majority of you are aware of that store. It's a pretty fancy store, opened just over a year ago. They sort of promote themselves as a next generation retail. But then instead of me talking more about the store, one of our senior designers, Jerome Valdez, right here, he was there just a couple of weeks ago. So let's hear his impressions about the store.
Yeah, thanks. You guys can hear me. So I was there in Chicago for other business, and I was lucky enough to get a spare moment, and I was on the Magnificent Mile. So I stepped into the AT&T store out of professional curiosity because I work for IQ Metrics. And what I found, like upon first entry, was a super welcoming feeling, right? And what I got was, oh, hey, welcome to AT&T. How can we help you? You know, can we help you at all today? And what I said was, no, I'm just cruising around. I said, well, great, have a good time. And upon entrance, you had this super welcoming, warm feeling. They used wood. This is my picture, so I stood up on this pedestal and took this panorama shot. They use wood, a lot of cool fixtures. They don't have just device islands, but all these islands that have, I guess, show devices in the context of use. They had a sports zone. They had a fan zone with all the sports teams in Chicago. They had an area where they had a connected car, a bunch of stuff for use in the home. So showing the items in the context of use. And as a result, like, I'm not much of a shopper, I'll be honest with you. I stayed there much longer than I expected. I actually almost even walked out with a speaker. But I'm also kind of a cheap shopper, so I totally didn't walk out with anything. But it was really a welcoming experience, and unlike anything that I'd ever walked into, and you know, I'm in the industry and I've seen a lot of retail locations for wireless, it really struck me as like, wow, I can just hang out here for a while. Yeah, it was really positive.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerome. So I actually talked about this store last year in the summit. So some of you might have been in that presentation. What was interesting, actually, just a couple of months ago, there was after a year review, what did they really learn from this store, right? So let's see a couple of things they learned. Average visit was 1 hour, and exactly what Jerome says, the 1 hour was because there was lots of activities. There's a lot of things to explore. And then we know that's, you know, it's a flagship store. There has to be a lot of things to explore. Otherwise, they saw the value of having staff on the move. So rather than have them kind of stuck behind a counter, like if they're always on the go, if they're always kind of accompanying, if needed, the customer, they saw a big value there. Big importance of presenting solutions versus focusing on transactions. And we'll talk much more about that as we go forward. Importance of being local. They're really proud on like being displaying Chicagoland. That's their kind of big team. And importance of physical design. They admitted that this part of the their just overall approach in retail, physical design itself, the environment, was really very low on their list, and now they actually want to bring it much higher. So actually, just a little side note, this hotel itself, the way it appears, the way it's designed, it's a really pleasant environment, right? I just wonder if we would have this kind of crowd if we just went to like, you know, a regular hotel of some sort, right? Anyway, lessons applied. What they want to do is they want to roll out 2,000 corporate stores based on these lessons that they've learned. And so the three major principles that they want to focus on is personalized service, focus on solutions rather than transactions, and creating emotional experiences. Right? So that's that was actually really interesting, you know. And you know, me and Tara and like a few people from our team, as we were talking about, and we said like, why we wouldn't just play around and try to create a store on our own on these principles. Like it doesn't matter. Like if it's not carrier, it's a dealer store. It's like any dealer store. Let's try to create something that is realistic, right? But using these principles. So we came up with an internal project called Ultimate Store. And in the overview, we just want to inspire you, kind of offer you some ideas. All these things that Diana was talking about, all these kind of awesome principles, we actually created a space that you can see it in action in our industry. So this was sort of our blueprint, and we say, these are a couple of things we'd like to have in mind. This can be any dealer, definitely not carrier. It could be carrier if they want, really. There'll be kind of solutions that you can pick and choose. Maybe you think this would work, this wouldn't. You know, just be inspired. Medium size, just a regular mall or inline, you know, kind of long and narrow space. That's what we played with. Having that simple circulation and easy exploration. Diana was talking about the line of sight. So you saw all of that. How many of you were actually in Diana's session? Just a few. Okay. We tried to use existing in-store media solutions, whether they're Archimetrics or like any other solution that you can find out there. Some of them really easily. And we also try to use existing retail management solutions. So this is our store. Okay, that's an overview. We can go now. Let's dive deeper into each one of these three. So there's a couple of notes, a couple of, you know, smaller ideas, suggestions in regards to all three of these. So let's start with personalization.
So when we look at personalization, the first thing we need to do is attract the consumer into our store. It takes 8 seconds to walk by a typical storefront. And within 2 seconds, the consumer knows whether or not they want to buy something. So we're really working with a matter of seconds to make an impression. And finally, an open door generates 35% more business than a closed door. So many retailers have open storefronts with glass so that really the whole store is treated like a window display. So this is a consumer's view from the outside, walking by. You'll notice here a digital sign. And first of all, just a slight motion of ads changing captures a consumer's attention. But more exciting, we can use this digital sign to show what's new in our store. In this case, it's a Galaxy S4. Come in, check it out. Next, this is a consumer walking from the other way. You'll notice that the ads are perpendicular, not straight on. And we're having some fun with some local content here. So we're actually inviting consumers to be part of our ad campaign. In this case, they're using the hashtag #It'sMyLife. And when they tweet or send a picture using this hashtag, they're going to see their ad appear in your store in real time. So it's a really cool way to have a very organic ad campaign that are featuring your consumers and how they're using your devices and products in their everyday lives. You can take this media to create other print media and other digital media and showcase it throughout your store. Next, we've got a theme area, which we'll dive into a little bit more as we go. But this area is really to capture different types of consumers and keep your store content fresh. So one month it might be music, the next month it might be food, another month it might be sports. But we're keeping things relevant and interesting.
So the next thing within the personalization is space for exploration. We'll dive much deeper into space later on, but AT&T is really big on this concept of exploration, education, and interactivity. That's one of the lessons they learn, right? So having that in mind, we thought about we should just focus on simple stories, delivering simple stories in designated spaces throughout this place. Basics such as logical grouping and labeling. Having flexible space for various uses. And try to address all demographics. So an example of a simple story in a designated space, look at this little corner, right? What is your old phone worth? There's an interactive there, and you see right off the bat. You know, you interact with this for a couple of minutes or even less, and then you know this is the story. And now I know that I have this value. I can do something with this value. I can buy other things. I can trade in my phone and buy other things for that. That's a simple story. Flex space. A lot of you know how expensive the retail space is, and we just say, oh, we don't really have space for people to hang out. Okay, fair. So what are we suggesting in here? Why wouldn't we just have a space that is at the same time can be used for a variety of uses. You can use it for sales, you can use it for consultation, you can use it for a little servicing, you can use for friends to hang out while they wait for another friend, or somebody from the family, etc. On the family side, a little bit of statistics: 75% of American spending occurs after 5:30 p.m. and on Sunday. And the average shopper in America does not like shopping. She might be a single mom with very limited time. So why wouldn't we address that? Diana was also talking about this as well. Why wouldn't we have just a little section, like inside the store, where parents would feel safe to leave their kids? Because first, they're like inside, and second thing, they have something to do, right? And again, you're featuring your own products. This is a tablet. Again, many of you have tablets as well. So this is really revolving, again, coming back to the industry itself. The next thing is product availability.
So 2 in 5 retailers believe that the inability to find the item they came to purchase is a major source of customer dissatisfaction, second only to out-of-stock items. So out-of-stock items is the #1 complaint from consumers. And you retailers are hearing this. 39% of retailers offer consumers the option to buy on mobile and ship to home, while 59% expect to do so by 2017, and you saw that stat shared earlier by Ann and Sai. So this is a familiar scene, an accessory wall in a store. But when it comes to accessories, especially cases, people have very unique taste. So what if we could extend our offering by hundreds, even thousands of other accessories? And that's where the concept of endless aisle comes in. Very much like what Ann and Sai showed you this morning with XQ Shelf. So as a retailer, it's allowing you to showcase hundreds and thousands of products without the risk of having to carry it in your store. And from the consumer's point of view, they have access to all of these great products and the convenience to either ship it to the store or ship it to home.
Okay, so the next big principle is solutions. And this one is really fun. It's fun. Actually, if you had a chance to walk by our in-store experience display, we tried to deliver this. You saw two areas, if you've been there. One is about fitness, one is about music. But this is how we apply that in our store. So when we talk about solutions and what AT&T has learned, I'll come back to this, but like this is by no means, I'm referring to AT&T as one and only. I just like what they discovered, right? So they say the customers go to a store to discover solutions to help them live, work, play, and learn. And the interesting thing, prior to putting together these products as a solution, they just didn't see the value of it. Okay? So the question for us was, so once the customers are in store, really, what are we offering them? We usually have specs and features. What they really need in stores are stories. Stories about solutions that we're providing. Jerome just mentioned in that store that he visited, there's a story about commuting because there's a car. You can see the use case, right? And you can see right off the bat the devices, you can see accessories, you can see apps that you can use within that context, right? Same for biking, same for home, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously we cannot put the whole settings of your home or a car into this little store. So we try to do something else. First thing first, basics, just basics, okay. Labeling and grouping. Grouping phones by operating system. That's really not a big deal. Mm-hmm. Secondary, grouping single phone with respective accessories. I have heard of a few retailers that are doing it. I personally still haven't been into the store where I can see, hey, this is Samsung Galaxy X4, this is iPhone 5S, and these are accessories that would work for this phone. So even just that simple thing, so what I did here, like literally just put in the same line, in the same vertical, in a logical grouping, couple of phones and couple of accessories. And we can even mirror that on the digital display if people want to find even more accessories for that particular device. The second thing was, having some interactive solutions that would really sell lifestyle plans, put in the lifestyle buckets, right? So if I really travel a lot, or if I really care about productivity, like in business, or if I'm a youngster, I'm not anymore, and I care about active life and just be around friends and stuff, I really don't want to go through like 3,000 plans and modifications that a certain carrier can give me. Just give me a simple bucket. Like this is my lifestyle, and within that lifestyle, I can find 3 or 4 plans, and that's it. So, even that can be taken on a kind of consultation level, right? It doesn't even have to be digital, but that is a story. Like, give me your story. Like, don't tell me, like, when I come to the store, like, what carrier are you on? Like, when are you planning? Like, when does your plan expire and stuff? Tell me, like, ask me, how are you? What's going on? Like, are you into sports? Are you into whatever? Like, sometimes customers themselves, they want to share some stories, right? Just continuing that story, that's a good skill that sales rep could have. What if we treat the whole store as a lifestyle magazine? That was one of the questions that was really interesting that when we did this. So how would that look like? And this is where we come to the team that we just mentioned earlier. What if we have a central part of a store that you're actually rotating on a regular basis, say monthly? So the thing that you would feature in there, and in our case, it is music. There's only a handful of live devices that your customers can actually come and try out. That's really important. So they need to have that tactile feeling. They need to touch it. They need to hear it. They need to see it. They need to put their own device into these docks and actually try it out. So the second thing, respect ads that are actually describing, and you can see from the outside, what's being teamed this month. Okay? And we say this month. Just imagine if you have this theme going on every month. So people that are actually walking by says, that's the same old store, like there's nothing new there. What if every month there's actually something fundamentally different and new and interesting and relevant for me. Next thing you can have on the smaller displays, such as these little catalogs, you can have this theme but go in depth, really. So not only you can see these handful of devices, you can actually go deeper in and find maybe something more appropriate for what you're doing. The second thing is theme entertainment. In this case, we actually embedded 42-inch or like larger screen, touch screen, into this table. So what we've done is we just opened the Flipboard. Does any one of you use Flipboard at all? You know what Flipboard is? It's a little magazine kind of application that actually exists for PCs, for tablets, for anything. And so any one of the users can create magazines. So you can easily find a magazine that revolves around music, in this case. And it's a simple solution. Just open it. So people, when they are into music, there's some entertainment that's happening right there. And if they read it, they might know that Miley Cyrus is in trouble. And the last thing, theme environment. So how to make this whole environment, this whole fairly minuscule space, how to make it work for the theme itself. How to make it a storytelling area. These are a few tips. So if you have this flex area, that you just have these simple devices and simple layout, you can use it for one-on-one sessions. You can use it for one-to-many sessions. So it could be sales rep with multiple customers talking about a few things. You can even have a guest presenter. So if 1 month you have a fitness as a team, for example, and your store is in the university campus, why not have somebody from your university team come and show a bunch of students how to use the latest Nike Plus, or how to use the apps to sync it up with that, how to lead an active fitness life. And this is really an opportunity to create that buzz, that little kind of like mini community within this. Because look at all these movable seating that's around there. Like even in our case, there's only 6 bar stools and a couple of little chairs for kids. But I can see in no time you have a dozen people looking at a certain presentation where this TV itself can be used as a mirror screen and somebody can demo something. And the most beautiful thing with that one is this is happening right in the center of your store. So all of this activity is actually in the window display. People passing by, and usually what they're most attracted to is actually other people, right? So as soon as they see the buzz, there's customers talking to some sales reps. That's where you just want to get in and see what's going on. But if you have 7 sales reps on the floor clustering around a counter and really nothing in the store that would invite you in, why would they ever come back to your store unless they really need to renew that contract?
So when we look at all of these individual products, they really don't mean much. But when we put them all together, we're really telling a story behind these products, and we're presenting solutions to our customers. So in this case, how can we enhance your fitness routine? How can we make your run just a little less painful? So very similar to my experience in India, we want to gauge as many senses as possible within the store. First of all, consumers are coming to the store to really touch and try and interact with the devices because they can't get that same experience online. They also want to hear and learn from your staff. They want to be educated but entertained at the same time. And they want to see that same information that they can see online but access it in the store. And that's where things like endless aisle and interactive apps come into play. So my specialty in the last piece, emotionally engaging experiences. Alan and I came across this article about a store in New York called Story, brainchild of Rachel Shetman. And it's a very cool concept because what it actually does is it changes products and what they sell and the offering every 4 to 6 weeks. They're telling a new story. And what I absolutely love is her #1 rule. So 70% of an experience should be what consumers know, and 30% should be surprise and delight. So your consumers are coming into your stores, they're expecting to see devices and accessories, but they're maybe not expecting the little things like being able to interact with Flipboard while they wait for a friend, having their kid play Angry Birds on the iPad, or having a choice of thousands of accessories available through Endless Aisle and being able to ship those items to the store or to their house. These are things that are surprising and delighting them. And finally, at the end of the day, why are people going to physical stores at all? It's really about the experience.
So to deliver this experience, so this is a sort of our final part where we'll try to really put it all together in a meaningful way. For these storytelling experiences, like really heartwarming and meaningful experiences, right? Because stories really, describe the situations where everything makes sense. Things are coming together. So you need to have people as well as storytellers for sure. But props or in-store media is extremely important, and the space where everything is happening is like the third element. And actually this third element I'll talk right now. This is how we actually sort of broken down this store. What you usually have in a regular store, you just have back office and you have the floor, right? This is where everything's happening. We actually added one little space in between, like a buffer space. We call it setup. So what we have is a standard back office, and we have setup and stage. Stage, you already kind of noticed from what we tried to do before, we really tried to make this an active part. We try to make this extended window display. Okay, so this is where we want cool things to happen. So this is where it's your, this space is your commercial. This is your ad, right? But what do you do with customers that are not happy? So Diana Dawson comes from Envirocell, and their founder and CEO, Paco Underhill, we had a couple of chances to talk to him, and once I asked him, what is the most common theme? Because they've been working with wireless retailers and carriers in North America for the past 20 years. What is the most common theme that comes to your mind? One theme that is common for this industry. And I was so surprised when he said anger. He literally said anger. What do you mean anger? Well, you have so many customers that are coming angry to your stores. Mm-hmm. They're not happy. They're not happy about the plans. They're not happy about devices. They're not happy how things are, how they're being charged. They're not happy about, there's so many things, So do you want those customers that are not happy being part of your window display? I don't think so. Do you want people, do you want people that have dysfunctional products or anything like that be right in the window display? Of course not. That's why we create a little section called setup. In setup, you could actually do phone activations in setup. You can do like services. You can do all other stuff. You can be slightly isolated, not just like two-station one. It could be a little bit of movable seating. So all of the seating, as you can see here, is movable, and it's actually bar stools. There's no comfy seating here. Okay? You want customers to be just enough comfortable to participate in this discussion or whatever is happening, but you don't want them to be too comfortable. Not too comfortable. So setup is sort of something that we thought it's really important especially for our industry. And you can see in the setup, actually it's kind of like similar like in Genius Bar in Apple stores. In that blue screen in the center, we just put tips and tricks about how to do simple things. So maybe if they're waiting for activations to happen, they have 20 minutes. Why wouldn't they learn something on the fly? So you can just use a simple digital signage and just create a couple of really, useful things. So, how do I use Instagram? Like, what is Instagram? Like, what is Twitter? So everything that you're selling, you're not just selling devices anymore that have certain specs. There's a whole ecosystem around every one of your customers. How does he use this device? What are all the greatest and coolest apps that are out there that can actually enhance my life, right? They might not know. Not everybody's, plugged in like 22-year-old kids. Okay, so as I said, the big one is stage. And as you see in the stage itself, we actually have, what we have on the sides is fairly standard store. You have your devices, you have some of the signage, whether they're posters or digital signage. You have accessory wall, you usually have TV service that you're selling as well. And that's sort of pretty much it. But what we try to do with this central part is something I personally still haven't seen. I was really intrigued that this is your flex area. This is your rotating area, right? So if you use the analogy of museums or galleries or themed attractions or stuff like that, you have a standard things. It's 60 to 70% of that gallery, for example, is your a permanent exhibition. And then what you have for 30 to 40% is your rotating exhibition. And then rotating exhibition is actually the one that gets all the media buzz. And this is how you attract new visitors to galleries and museums, et cetera, et cetera. That is such a simple principle that we can easily really apply to this. Okay. Circulation patterns. Circulation is extremely simple here. Diana Dawson and Varicel, they proved it so many times. Majority of people, large majority of people will go to the right. And this is why the reason why we put the what's new and what's hot in store on the right-hand side, right? So this little table actually creates an obstacle. So you need to go either left or right. A majority of your people will go to the right. And this is what they will find with your featured products, your new products and whatever you want to put there that's really hot. And as you go, if you keep going, you have plans. There's like a logical story happening around it. There's plans. You can go by the feature products. Maybe kids can see right off the bat, hey, I have an area here that I can, have fun with. So the parent is actually not pulled out of the store or like there's activity for kids. So people that come to your store as parents, they can go, okay, I have some time now, so I can really look around here. And then again, as you walk back, you have a big accessory wall with endless aisle. You can have like endless accessory wall, literally. There might be some activities happening right there in that sort of the flex area as well. So maybe, again, if your friends do not want to go further down, they can just wait for you down there in that flex area, have fun with Flipboard or whatever. So there are activities for people to stay in your store rather than go next door to have a coffee or like open up their phone and do their own stuff, right? It's important you keep them in the context of your store because they are potential customers. They are, really. And the last thing is the environment, the materials. You can see we use lots of wood here. Wood is really something that, you can't deny it. No matter what your educational or cultural bias is, like everybody feels well with wood and leather and natural materials, right? And one little metaphor occurred to me the other day is about car design. Like, how many of you really appreciate good car design? Really? And what does that mean for you? Okay, what does that mean for you, good car design? Style? Like something really specific. What do you like about car design? Quality? Okay, in terms of like how visually it looks, is there something that kind of you really like? Some materials? It's cool. Anybody else?
The fit and finish is what I always appreciate sitting in a really nice car, how everything fits and all holds together, just the ergonomics of it.
Yeah.
When you sit in a really nice car, it feels good because everything looks right, everything fits right.
Yeah.
Touch and the feel, the leather.
Have you ever thought about like how do you see the car from the perspective, how do I see it outside, whether how do I feel it inside? So what I'm trying to say here is, when you see a nice line car design, all slick and metal and shiny, it looks really nice and cool and sharp, right? But when you go inside the car, you don't really want to feel that, cold, metal, completely slick, right? You want to have that kind of, textures and details that are much more organic. They're very cozy, very comfortable. You want everything to be in place, right? So it occurred to me that a lot of new next generation renos that are happening with some wireless retailers, and many of them I've seen in Canada, they actually want to look cool as a car exterior. And you see them, they really look super fancy. You pass by, everything's shiny and white, and there's some digital displays and stuff. When you go in there, you don't feel that well. You don't want to stay there. You don't want to hang out there. it just doesn't work. So what finally, somebody acknowledged, and that's one of the lessons they learned, we really need to bring natural materials into our stores. We need people to feel comfortable. This is something they will not tell you rationally. Okay, I really feel good about this store because you put wood in there. But they will feel it. Mm-hmm. They will feel it. And that's a big lesson. The next thing is media, in-store media.
Yeah, so another important piece of the in-store experience is the media that we're showcasing. First of all, bringing that online experience in-store. So consumers want to try out the products ahead of time. We can also give them access to information, product pricing, the ability to compare products. So they're able to get that same information online, but have the added perks of being in store, which is being able to touch and try the products, being able to ask staff questions. Next, with the digital displays, this is an awesome opportunity to showcase not only what's new in your store, but maybe you have a device on sale. Maybe there's a specific accessory that you want to feature. It's a great way to showcase products. And lastly, it's a great way to tell a story and present solutions to consumers as opposed to just individual products. So the most important part of the whole in-store experience equation is the people. So when Alan and I sat down to design this store, we really had the employees in mind just as much as the consumer and the employee experience. So we want to create a space and provide tools that really enable staff to build relationships with consumers, not just have a quick transaction. And we want customers to feel like it's a place they can not only shop, but learn, have fun, and bring friends. So there's a few takeaways here. First of all, when you're walking by the store, Diana spoke about the decompression space. You want a space where you can just greet and welcome customers. You'll also notice in our store, there's not really any counters. There's no barriers between the employees and the consumers. It's all about side-by-side interactions. And there's spaces in there with the demo wall and the themed areas that are really encouraging consumers to come in, participate, share stories, interact. And lastly, we want to provide the convenience of giving consumers an option to check out anywhere. So Tu showed off our mobile products earlier this morning, but it's really offering that busy consumer a chance to just run in, grab an accessory, check out quickly, and get out.
So to wrap up, this was our little experiment. I hope you were just a little bit inspired. We want to close it with a little quote from Daniel Pink from his book, A Whole New Mind, that he came out a couple of years ago. It's no longer sufficient to create a product, service experience, or a lifestyle that is merely functional. Today, it is economically crucial and personally rewarding to create something that is also beautiful, whimsical, or emotionally engaging. So this is sort of like in 2 sentences what we try to do here. We all know that all of us in this industry, we really care about numbers. We really care about operations. Mm-hmm. This is extremely complex, set of variables each one of you have to deal with. But whether you want it, acknowledge it, or not, the in-store retail specifically is changing dramatically. And we can only provide you with some tools and stuff, but I think what you need to do homework on your own is like, what is my story? What do I want my customers, what am I selling to them? If I want to be in this business for a long time, I really need to find my niche. I need to find my character. I want my people to really be my ambassadors. How do I make my people to be my ambassadors? And that's all of those questions we had in mind when we put this together. And to be honest, not because we put it together, this is kind of store that would attract me personally. If you really have this in my neighborhood or in my closest mall, and my kids would love it for sure because they would just come in, and as my wife is shopping for other stuff, I would just take them here. They would have fun with Angry Birds, and I would have fun with, Flipboard and checking maybe some new headphones, or this is how new transactions are happening. I would have a chat with the sales rep, and say, hey, how's it going? Like, I remember last time you showed me some cool fitness tips, and you know what? I tried it, and it really worked for me. So, and then you say, okay, so tell me something more, so I can actually tell it to other people. Those are kind of relationships, like really on a very personal, human level. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line. Those were things that sort of inspired us to do this, and we sort of hope that we inspired you with a few little ideas here and there, right? So maybe we can just kind of open it we have 10, 15 more minutes. If there's something that, well, how about you, Tara? Is there like one thing that really kind of worked for you here that you really liked?
Yeah, so what I absolutely love about this is you don't have to do a whole store renovation or really redesign. You can use existing fixtures to drop in many of these elements.
Yeah. My personal favorite, just before I ask you, is actually this flex space and this kind of rotating theme. I think you can generate lots of value and lots of, eyeballs, attraction, lots of dynamics into the store with this kind of fairly simple setup.
I think one store that comes to mind for me is definitely Starbucks. So Starbucks does a really good job in creating that kind of living room feel. You'll notice even the Starbucks here, it's cozy. I think it has wood floors, but then there's a table with the iPad. So I actually saw kids interacting. Yeah. I think there's 4 tablets there where they can sit and play while their parents order their coffee.
Yeah, and there's definitely, like, even if you've been to, even Microsoft stores, if you go to, like in the commercial electronics, right? They also, let's say, have wood floors. They have chairs that are just comfortable enough for 10, 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. They're chairs, so you don't have to stand, but they're not comfortable enough to stay for a longer time. And then sort of the, even sometimes it goes to really subtle details, the proportions, right? This is the reason why we all like to go to Disneyland, because there's something about Disneyland design that makes it very cozy, very personal, very intimate. And they actually use lots of tricks. There's like one of the tricks is actually forced perspective. When the second floor is kind of 80 to 70% actually shorter than the first floor, and then the third floor is actually that much shorter. So you'd think it's a three-story building, but it's actually not. So all the that's called forced perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And this is how you're creating much more kind of intimate environment. So even like subtleties like those can help, but materials for sure, like right off the bat. Like as I said like before, Starbucks actually like plastered everything in wood, and not because they just want to create like a cabin kind of feel. There are new studies. There's actually a whole new discipline, and if you Google it, called biophilia. Biophilia actually describes how people feel deeper inside in the certain environments. And there's absolutely, like, whether you are coming from any kind of continent, any kind of background and stuff, these natural materials such as wood, stone, glass, they are the ones that, people were measured actually, right? The pulse went down, the heart rate went down, the blood pressure went down. The bottom line is people are more relaxed in this environment, and that's why Starbucks is actually more and more using more and more wood, because it's very calculated design. It's not just kind of fancy schmancy surface design. It's very calculated. It's almost like some kind of like a drug. You can't rationally explain it, but now it's scientifically proven, and that's why they do it.
Thank you so much for joining us today.